No, you do not need a headset in order to use MRTK. In fact, we have several options for you to choose from without a device. So first, when you're building and testing your app, there are two options you can use. The first one is the input simulation feature, and this allows you to test using built-in mouse and keyboard inputs inside the Unity editor. In addition, you can also use the HoloLens emulator, which allows you to test on the PC without having an actual physical HoloLens. And when you want to actually deploy your app, you still don't need a headset for that. In addition to deploying on the popular XR devices, you can also deploy your MRTK app to mobile devices using ARKit and ARCore. And in addition, you can deploy your MRTK app as a 2D app to desktop or to web using WebGL.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Global XR Conference. And today we have Kevin Joyce with us. Kevin, you are muted before telling, but let's do this. Kevin is going to present to us how the democratization of XR will benefit us all. It is a talk on no-code solutions for creating XR content and the benefits it will bring to XR developers and consumers. We're going to have Kevin's talk, and after that, we're going to have a few minutes for Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, please put at the end on the chat, and then at the end we can come back to that. So let's do this, Kevin. The stage is yours. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone who is here watching this. This is a bit of a strange setup for me, as strange as this may sound. It's been a while since I've done a remote presentation. We were spent like 2 years being so used to doing remote conferences and remote presentations, and now going back to normality, or some semblance of normality, doing online presentations feels weird. So I apologize in advance for any technical issues there may be. Hopefully there won't be very many. This is a very, very simple presentation I'm going to give. The talk I want to give today is about the democratization of XR and how that helps everybody involved in the VR and AR and MR and immersive technologies as a new medium. Now, I've been paying attention to some of the other talks at the Global XR conference, and I'm sure that many of you here have, and they're quite statistic heavy, and they're quite, no offense to the performers, they were all very, to the presenters, they were all very interesting, but some of them might have been a bit dry. This is not that kind of talk. Most of what I'm going to be giving you here is going to be anecdotal. It's going to be from my personal experience and why my opinions have formed in the way that they have. So just to dive in with my personal experience, if there is anybody watching this who knows me, these are likely to be the reasons that you know me. I was the founder of a website called VR Focus, vrfocus.com. I'm not sure if anyone here has any relevance to that. It was a while ago now, but I was a journalist for many, many years, and I specialized in VR for a long time. Because of the work I did at VR Focus, it gave me the opportunity to be involved in many different VR projects. And you can see a few here that I founded. I was a founder of the Virtual Reality Diversity Initiative, which is something that I want to talk about today, which obviously helped me build these beliefs in diversification and democratization. There's also a company called the Reality Center that I worked with, which was about supporting startups and building networks for the XR. For investors is a strong word. For XR, people who are keen on XR or looking for new opportunities in XR across London. And then we have Tiny Brains, the little brain logo we've got at the bottom there, the brain wearing the very old version of a VR headset. Now, Tiny Brains is what I do now. Basically, Tiny Brains is a company that is designed to be a startup helper. We talk with companies that have interest in projects or interest in software or interest in ideas even, and find out what it is that they are missing, what it is they need to help bring their ideas to reality. Now, some of our clients just need marketing and social media. Others are trying to raise funds. Others, for example, that I'm going to be speaking with a lot about today is a company called Psychic VR Lab, for which I handle basically all representation of this company throughout the UK and most of Europe, because they are a company that is based in Japan. So we do a lot of different things with Tiny Brains, wear a lot of different hats. But today I am going to be here as the global partner for Psychic VR Lab. I'm going to talk a lot about the work that they are doing across the world to help with this idea of democratization. So as I say, I was fortunate enough, thanks to my work at VR Focus, to try many different things, travel across the world and experience many different AR and VR projects. I came from a video games background. I spent 10 years as a journalist in video games before specializing in XR. I moved into XR in 2013, so I've had nearly 10 years now in XR as well. I traveled a lot when VR Focus was first formed. I had to go. I felt like it was my need as a journalist just to maintain my own sense of ethics. I needed to experience what VR and XR innovation was happening across the world. It's perfectly fine for me to spend a lot of time in San Francisco and London and say this is XR, but it's not the whole picture. So I have traveled to many different countries and many different places and met many different people. And the one thing that I did learn is that the more places you see, the more people you meet, the more you come to realize that it is the varied minds, it's the variety of backgrounds and ideas that leads to innovation. You can have as much money in the world, you can have as much money as possible to try and create something, but if you don't have the minds to fuel that innovation, you're going to be repeating the same things over and over again. And I mentioned video games, my background in the video games industry a few minutes ago. And this is one of the flaws I see with the video games industry now. Don't get me wrong, I still absolutely love video games, still spend most of my free time, what little free time I have, playing video games. But we are getting to a point now where we are treading over a lot of the same ground, especially on the mainstream AAA title games on the mainstream consoles. I don't think there's going to be anyone here that's watching this today that's going to argue with me that the annual flow of Call of Duty and FIFA, and it's just such a repetitive cycle, and there's a dearth of innovation there. I'm not saying that every FIFA game is terrible, but it does feel to me personally that you can buy one every 5 years and you'll get all the innovation that's going to be for that half decade in that one title. There are a lot of video game genres that have become like this. I'm saying this obviously on the very close to the launch of a new God of War game, which is probably going to destroy everything I've mentioned here. But you get the idea. On the whole, innovation in video games has slowed down, and that's because you're going through the same cycles. Now, what we have an opportunity is for XR to not do the same thing. There is an opportunity for XR to be different. As I say, I've traveled the world and experienced a lot of XR from a lot of different places, and meeting with many different people and finding out that diversity, that innovation comes from people with different backgrounds and people with different lives and people with different ideas. There are maybe problems in one part of the world that XR can solve that don't exist in another part of the world. So how are we going to find a solution to that when we don't know what the problem is in the first place? So, excuse me. So one of the key things, of course, is defining what actually democratization is. Now, for the purpose of this talk, I'm going to define it as literally giving people from different backgrounds access to XR. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about making everything free for everybody, although that is a help. The hardware end of things is being led by the hardware manufacturers. So giving the end user access, other than running events and things like that, where public are allowed to come in and try XR applications and hardware, which I do. But aside from that small taster session, giving access to a large demographic of people to the hardware is beyond my control. That is led by people, companies that create smartphones for AR or smart glasses for head-based AR, or obviously Meta and HTC and Valve and Sony and so on for VR headsets. However, what I have been able to do is to give access to potential creators. So people who have an idea or a passion or some sort of basic experience or some sort of interest, even just basic interest, being able to give them access to the tools required to create XR. Firstly, the tools, and secondly, some sort of informal education as to how they might go about doing that. So one of the first ways I did this was with a project called the Virtual Reality Diversity Initiative, the VRDI. Now, this was a not-for-profit that I founded a few years ago now, quite a few years ago now. But essentially what this was it was one-day events where we had people from all different backgrounds coming together and working for a single day with lecturers in either AR, VR, 360 video, or using VR to create design documents for 3D printing, things like that. And the idea was that everybody, no matter what their skill level they had when they came in, by the end of the day, everybody would have built some kind of working prototype. And the idea here, obviously, was this: it's breaking down the barriers, it's dispelling the myth that creating content for XR is difficult. Obviously, I'm not saying it's easy, but there is an opportunity for everybody to get involved. And what we did find with these events was that some of the ideas they were coming up with were things that I could never possibly have thought of. I am just one person with one background. And if you fill a room with people like me with the same kind of backgrounds, we're all going to come up with the same ideas. So what we did find was that bringing in new people and giving them the opportunity to play with the hardware and giving them the opportunity to tool around with a bit of the software themselves brought some fantastic new ideas. And I'm very fortunate to say that some of the people who went through this process, went through the VRDA, actually have ended up working in VR in one way or another, in XR in one way or another. So so that's something that's, I'm super proud of. The way the VRDI worked essentially was that there was the first event which I funded. I went and spoke with some people who are more representative of diversity than myself, and I put forward some money and helped with the organization of a singular event, and it went very well. We were all very pleased with the way it went. So from then on, I worked with the team that I had at VR Focus. And it was led by one of our managers from VR Focus, who put on some fantastic events across the course of about a year and a half. I think we did 13 in total. Not sure if that was including the initial one I did or not. But essentially it was a fantastic series of events, and it was free for everybody attending. So I'm super proud of it and hope that one day we can get back to that. But in the meantime, what it did do for me personally was, other than realizing about how easy innovation occurs when you give people the right access to it, is that there are some people who can come up with ideas for how best to use XR, or to use XR in ways that that I had never imagined. But they weren't in a position where they could spend months or years even learning a platform like Unity or Unreal or so on. So the best solution, obviously, is a no-code solution. The likes of Unreal Engine and Unity have built their own, were at one time building their own no-code solutions, which were literally just drag and drop interfaces. In Unreal Engine, it was called the Unreal Engine VR Editor, and in Unity, it was called I think it was literally just called the Unity VR Builder, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I had the pleasure of trying both of these several times in their production, and the Unreal Engine one in particular is incredibly intuitive. You could make VR landscapes or small areas of interaction, very short game sequences. The Unity VR Builder wasn't quite as advanced. I believe they probably started a little later, but it was on the same path, and they were both showing a great deal of promise. However, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I have not heard anything about either of these two projects in several years now. I don't know if they've just been forgotten, if they've been shelved. I don't even know if they actually ever went into full production to the consumer developer releases of Unreal Engine or Unity. Essentially, for all intents and purposes, from my knowledge, they're not a good option to give to people who are trying to come into VR or XR completely new. So instead, I was looking for alternative no-code solutions. So I wanted to find other platforms that could do similar things to Unreal and Unity, but provide a great more deal of options. We're not just limited to games here. There's a lot of opportunity out there for lots of different XR experiences. So I've worked with a handful of different no-code solutions over the years. So for 360 Video, VR, I've worked with them occasionally, and there's a great team they've got there, and they really are passionate about the solution. But it is specifically for 360 video. Then we have Augmania, who is a popular platform for creating 360 tours, 360-degree tours, and the idea being that you can obviously film your area, scan your area, and create tours that you can then share with other people online. It's a great tool for doing this. Plug XR is a great tool for cloud-based smartphone AR applications. So you do need a fairly decent connection to make it work. On 4G, it'll function, but 5G or a decent Wi-Fi connection is far better for this. It is very popular though. So if you're looking for cloud-based AR, I would suggest either Plug XR or another company called Echo3D, who I've spoken with quite a bit. I think they might have recently changed their name. I think it's just Echo now. But they do some great stuff as well with cloud-based AR applications. For e-commerce, there's a company called Scapic. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce this. But they did a variety of things as a no-code solution for AR and VR. But they were bought by a company called Flipkart, which was, I think it was early this year, but it might have been last year. So now since that purchase, they now specialize in e-commerce. And then we've got Zapworks. Zapworks lets you make 2D and 3D assets compatible with smartphone AR. Use cases include like making photo albums or essentially like photo galleries in your own living room and so on. And it's a great solution for sharing content in that way, sharing 2D assets in that way, or 3D as well. So all of these platforms, and I'm sure there's many more out there. These are just the ones that I have knowledge of. All of them are great, but the real problem is they all specialize in one very specific area. They're all solutions to a problem that we already know exists. And they all expect you to have a mindset for XR before you begin. There is no room on these platforms for you to go in and not know what you want. All of them have a fee, an entry fee to begin with, and all of them expect you to know what you're targeting towards. They don't expect you to go in with an idea, I'm in love with XR. what can I do with it, and figure it out later. They want you to have that idea before you go in. So instead, there was a company that I'd worked with previously that I was wondering if they had a solution that was similar. And this company, as I mentioned earlier, is Psychic VR Lab. Now, Psychic VR Lab are a Japanese company that have a product called Styly. Now, there's many different ways in which you can use Styly. Some people have compared it recently, in recent years, to Google Poly, which unfortunately shut down last year, as a place that you can store your VR creations. And you can indeed do that. But there's also many different aspects to it. There is if you are experienced in developing for XR, there is a Unity plugin that you can download. And once you've created your XR content pieces, you can use that Unity plugin to upload your content to the Styly gallery. And it will become shareable. It will go into the gallery, generate a unique URL and a unique QR code, which can then be shared universally and allow anyone in the world to experience your content. There is also Styly Sessions, which is essentially a multi-user suite, which allows, I think it's 14 people right now, stable on the platform with VoIP to experience any content that you create simultaneously. And this can be a mix of web VR. So if you're browser-based, you can be streaming in your browser through VR headsets, which includes the Vive and Quest 2 and so on, or through a smartphone AR. So you can be on any of these devices, and the people who are in the session, in a single session, can be a mix of all of these devices. I've done many in recent months with people who are on their phone and some on their computer while I was in VR, and there was a couple when I didn't have a VR headset with me, so I would be on my laptop and speaking to someone who's experiencing in VR. And these are great opportunities for content creators to share what they're working on with other people and have them critique it, and have people give live feedback in the environment in real time, with real-time VoIP. So this is a great solution for people, once again, much like VIA or Augmania, Plug, Scapic, Echo, Zapworks. Great for people who already know what they're doing. But this is not what we're here talking about. We're talking about democratization. We're talking about giving access to people to new ideas. And so for that, they have what's called the Styly Studio. Now, the Styly Studio is a really simple no-code solution. It's a drag and drop interface. So you can upload 3D models, or either 3D models that you've made or 3D models that you buy online, or there is a selection of 3D models available to you free with the platform. And then what you can do in a browser through a really simple interface that you can see on the screen right now, you can, through a menu interface, you can drag and drop items into the world. You can create a landscape. You can alter the way objects and places exist, the way they're lit, the way they move. You can change textures and materials. And it's all done through a really simple menu interface. It is no coding, and it's super easy to get something very impressive up and running in AR, VR, or web VR. Within just a few hours, you can get an impressive looking scene. And the idea of this is that it's built as an XR art platform. But the idea for me is that it's a platform that you can show people, as what we were talking about before when my work in the VRDI, that it breaks down barriers. It allows people to learn they can create something in AR or VR or XR as a whole without the need to spend a lot of money and a lot of time with expensive education learning Unity or Unreal or something similar. If you've got an idea, that is enough to get you started. And a lot of those ideas can be seen through fruition with the Styly Studio. And the beautiful part about it is, although you still have to be cautious about obviously the headroom you have on a VR headset or a smartphone, once you've finished your scene, it's just a single click to make your scene compatible with AR, VR, and web VR. It takes the Styly plugin, or the Styly Studio takes all the heavy lifting out of you, away from you. It makes sure that everything works across 3 different parallels. and everything is available to you at a single QR code that's scannable on your smartphone. It allows you to upload your own models, as I said, but also embed videos and upload images. So if you needed a space for your colleagues to come and work, and you didn't know what Altspace was or whatever else, you could literally just create a small room and put a video screen up, and well, hey, off you go. You've got your own little conference room. You can create shared spaces for you and your friends. I'm sure there's a lot of people that use Styly sessions during lockdowns to communicate with people they hadn't seen in a while, especially as you can be in VR, but you don't need a VR headset to do so. So Styly has a lot of different opportunities. It grants a lot of different opportunities to a lot of different people. And this obviously gives an opportunity for, as I say, more people to come in and explore what XR can do for them. So in recent months, I've been putting the platform in front of 3D modelers, in front of graphic designers, in front of musicians, and videographers, and just showing them how simple it is to transfer the medium they work in into a VR or an AR landscape. For 3D modelers, it's another tool, it's another way of expressing their medium. If they're creating fantastic 3D models in the likes of Maya, and they want to share those online, obviously they can use Sketchfab or something similar. But if they want the people to be able to experience them in their own living room in AR immediately, they can just throw them into the studio, click the upload button, and that's it. That they can share that with anybody. Anybody can have their little dancing dragon on the living room coffee table or wherever it may be. I found also musicians are finding some fantastic ideas for developing music videos that are immersive music videos, essentially, where you can sit in a landscape that is designed around the music that's being played, and that interacts or performs along with the music. And these are fantastic opportunities that the people that I'm introducing this platform to before may never have thought of these ideas without realizing, hey, this is something that I could work with. This is something that isn't going to take time away from my day job, my 3D models, my creating music. This is something that is going to work alongside that. This is something that is going to benefit me without taking away from my day-to-day. So with this in mind, I actually set about bringing Styly to younger people. Although there's people in professional careers that could have great ideas, and many of them are experiencing XR for the first time, I wanted to see if the same could apply by giving students and younger people the opportunity to access a no-code solution for XR development. And so what I've been doing in recent times is I've been running a lot of college workshops. And these are situations where basically what we do is we go into colleges and universities and give one-day lectures to students for free. It doesn't matter where they're starting from, we will design the lectures around them. So if they are students who are doing game design courses or similar and know Unity, we will teach them about the Styly plugin. If they are musicians or 3D modelers, we will show them how to use Styly Studio to get their assets into XR, and then show them how to build around that, show them the interface and how simple it is to get something super quick and easy up and running. And one of the fantastic results we had from this was from a project called Arrival, which the artwork on this page is from. Now, Arrival was a project with LDE UTC in London, which was 16 to 19-year-olds as they were preparing to go into university, essentially. And what they did was the college is near the Royal Docks in London, which, for anyone who doesn't know, this is a disused dock. So many years ago, I couldn't put a date on it off the top of my head, but many years ago, decades, the dock was an actual working dock. Boats would come down the river and offload their cargo, and back up off the river they go. The docks now have become a nice place to go on a Sunday afternoon. There's a few restaurants, some street food, some music, and so on. And there's a lot of new developments around there as well, a lot of new housing structures, blocks of flats, and so on. It's had quite a bit of money spent on the area. I hate the word gentrification, but you can imagine what I'm talking about. It's very near the Excel Centre in London, which is one of the biggest conference halls in London. So what the students at the college did was they essentially used the Stylish Studio to create 3D representations of what the docks look like when they were actually a working dock. So Arrival was a street performance. So you would turn up at a field nearby the Royal Dock, and then you'd follow a tour guide essentially around the streets, and music would play at you, and actors would perform at certain stages and so on. And one of these stages, there was a whole load of QR codes laid out right by the river. And if you would scan one of these QR codes and hold your phone up, you would see the cranes and so on would come back to life, and you would see cargo being lifted off virtual ships and being placed on the dock next to you, and all sorts of different interpretations of how that dock used to function. And it was a fantastic experience. A lot of people loved it, and the students were really great working on it, even so much that we had many of them that went on to do more fanciful takes. One student in particular, a week or two later, was showing me about the sci-fi world he was developing, but at the same scale. So if you went back to the Royal Dock, instead of there being a boat going down the river, there was the massive like crab tank thing walking down the water and so on. It's fantastic. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. The reason we need to get these people, new people, into the field of XR is so that we get new ideas like this, and giving them no-code solutions, giving them easy access to unlocking their creativity is exactly what I'm all about. So in addition to working with colleges, we also have a program which I've been working on here in the UK called NewView. And what NewView is it's several different pylons to it, much like with Styly. But first up, we have the NewView Awards. And the NewView Awards is an award ceremony that takes place in Japan every year, which is designed to celebrate the best of XR, the best in XR art. Again, VR, AR, web VR, MR, head-mounted AR, smartphone-based AR. It doesn't matter what aspect of the medium you're using, just as long as you're presenting something that's creative, something that's innovative. And the artwork is presented on the Styly platform. It doesn't matter which aspect of the Styly platform you use, whether it is through Unity and the Styly plugin or through Styly Studio. The complexity of the piece you're creating isn't what's important. What is important is the creativity and the imagination behind it. And this works hand in hand with the belief, the fundamental belief I have that VR and AR are only going to improve when we get new ideas. So the NewView Awards are, sadly, for anyone watching this who might be interested, this year's awards entry period unfortunately closed on Monday, earlier this week. So you've missed this year, but there is next year. This event happens every year. And there are monetary prizes, some monetary prizes, but the biggest prize in my mind is several of the winners will get the opportunity to work with companies that are based in Japan as a client on a client basis, and actually have their work displayed in Japan. I went and saw one a few years ago, which was a fantastic piece. As you're walking down near the Shibuya Scramble, the very famous crossing in Shibuya, with your smartphone, you can scan a QR code at the start, and as you walk down with your smartphone, panels from a manga comic book appear as you walk further and further down the street. Absolutely fantastic piece of work. It might have been a bit distracting as you're trying to walk down the sidewalk, but a brilliant idea. I absolutely loved it. Excuse me. So in addition to the NewView Awards, we have the NewView School. Now, we've recently finished the second year of the NewView School here in the UK. It's a summer school which students of all skill levels come together to learn to create XR art to put forward for the NewView Awards. The students begin simply. They can formulate an idea, experiment a bit with AR and VR to have some ideas of what they think might work. And then they can have lectures that will follow on to show them how to make it happen. It will give the students the tools to create the vision they had at the start after they've got used to the idea of experimenting with the medium. Now, again, it doesn't matter what the skill level of the participant is before they come in, because we can either move through with Styly Studio with the no-code solution, or we can go for a more in-depth tuition through Unity. Now, we offer everybody the opportunity to get tuition through Unity, no matter what skill level they're at when they start. If it's something that they believe they can grasp and that they can pursue deeper ideas through Unity, we will give them that tuition. If they're more about the creative process, the bringing their ideas to life, then Studio might be the answer for them. But a lot of students, what we have found, and this goes back to the college works we've done and also our New View School, a lot of our students or participants have found that the Styly Studio is almost like a stepping stone to the Unity plugin. Once they've got an idea of what they can do and what they can't do, what their creativity is going to unlock by using the no-code solution, and what is still kept behind and what is a bit more complicated and would need that Unity integration, would need Unity underneath. Once they have that understanding, they can make the choice to, right, I have a platform here that I can keep creating on while I'm learning how to do more complicated things, more in-depth experiences through Unity with the Styly plugin. So just as an overview here, this is basically a short breakdown of everything that Styly is compatible with. It's a little bit outdated. Obviously, Oculus should be Meta now, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that have had this in their presentations during this conference. And Daydream, I mean, I still have a Daydream, and I thought it was okay. But I know there's a lot of people out there that would be that would balk at the fact that I've got a Daydream logo on this slide. But essentially, you can see that a lot of these platforms, Styly helps you to meet in the middle. You can have a fantastic model that you've made in Maya, but how are you going to get it from your desktop, from your Maya, your exported piece, to someone who has a HoloLens on the other side of the world? How are they going to see it in their living room on their HoloLens device? The Styly is a gateway for many different things, many different opportunities, and it's a great way of showing people the benefits of XR for their own works. So all of this work that I've been doing, whether it be the VRDI or the finding these no-code solutions and working with Psychic VR Lab and Styly to create something to bring no-code solutions to a wider audience, has led me to the firm belief that it's by giving more talented people access to the hardware, we're going to access to the software, to the toolkits to create content, we're going to come up with 3 new things. The first of which is new ideas. This is what I've been talking about this entire, I don't know how long I've been going now, about 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes. So I think I've only got a few minutes left. We're going to come back to new ideas. We're going to be finding that people see the hardware and the software in ways that we've never seen it before. By bringing people in that haven't worked in video games, that haven't worked in VR, that don't know Unity, that don't know Unreal, don't even know what Unity and Unreal are. By bringing those kinds of people in, we will see there are ideas for what these mediums can do that we have never thought of before. And this, with the help of no-code solutions, will lead to new types of applications. We will find there are problems being solved that we never knew existed. We'll find that there are experiences to be had that we never thought people would be interested in. And obviously, what these new applications will lead to is new audiences. We will find that there is more people coming in and buying the hardware. There are more people coming in and believing that in the power of AR and VR and what they can do and how they can change lives, and whether it be for entertainment purposes or whether it be for your daily lifestyle. These new audiences coming in will find a reason to pick up AR or VR or both, and a reason to stay with it. And more people actually using these mediums, more people actually using AR and VR for any reason whatsoever is good for everybody in the industry. There is no barrier. We're not gatekeeping anything here. We're not trying to say you can't have this because of XYZ. Completely the opposite. We want more people. We want more minds to create ideas. We want more talented people to come in and tell us how those ideas can become applications. And we want more audiences, more people believing in what AR and VR can do, so that we have more of a pool of people share this with. And yeah, that's really it for my talk today. And if anyone's in the same mindset that I am, feel free. I put this up earlier, but I'm going to put it up again. It's my my contact details there. You've got my email, my Twitter, and also my LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to talk with anybody about this subject, because it is something that I very much care about. And if anybody needs to know anything more about Styly or any of the other applications I mentioned, or Tiny Brains or any of my other works, please feel free to reach out for any reason. I believe I'm going to be around for a few minutes to answer questions live, or is it on Discord? Sorry, I can't remember.
No, don't worry. If there is any kind of question, I'll bring it for you.
Okay.
Let me ask you some questions. Quite interesting presentation. Thanks very much for that. You will say something very interesting, because usually we are talking about having the killer app for VR or AR. So everybody thinks that this is how VR and AR are going to be popular everywhere. What you're saying is that we should come one step before and help.
I've been in VR, like I say, for nearly 10 years now, and every year the conversation is, what's the killer app? What's the killer app? What's the killer app? And I fundamentally don't believe there is going to be a killer app. This is not a games console we're selling. You know, we're not trying to sell a Nintendo 64 with Super Mario 64. We're not trying to sell a PlayStation 2 with Grand Theft Auto 3. You know, this is an entirely new medium. This is something that we haven't experienced in a long time. And I think it's going to be more like the iPhone was, or more like, you know, I hate to say it given the crash that we had, but more like the internet was. And the fact that there's no one killer application. We need people to bring in new ideas and solve problems, so that for you, there's a killer application. But for everyone else around you, everyone else in your network, there's a completely different application that is the killer application. Now, I come from video games, as I say. And so for me, the killer application is when I can live video games, when I don't have to sit with a controller, when I can actually experience that, when I can be in the fantasy world, when I can ride that dragon, when I can shoot that robot. You know, that's the killer application for me. I'm very easily pleased. But, you know, I don't think that's the killer application for my mum. So...
But what you're proposing is brilliant, because what we're talking now is that we should have more kids and more people using the technology, so they can build more content and more people know about this. So
this is it. I mean, it's been a long time since I was 18 years old, and having people who are 18 come into this technology and sit there with a headset on for 10 minutes and then go straight to their computer and go, oh, I've had this idea this can do, and just hammer something out in an hour using using Styly Studio and going, look at this. That's like seeing these kind of ideas and these people come up with things that I could never possibly have thought of, having worked in it for over 10 years, or nearly 10 years for VR specifically. Having worked in it for this long and not had those ideas proves that it's not about me. It's about everybody being a part of this.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that we still need to have more public access to headsets? Because I think that this is something that we are missing. For example, what you're doing, you are taking the technology to new people, but not everybody is able to buy a headset or to try it or to do something like this. Do you think that should be some kind of public from governments or something like this to help to have more headsets available to use, like in libraries or something like this?
Sure. So this is actually a very difficult question given the situation with COVID in recent years. There's a lot of people that wouldn't want to do that, and I can perfectly understand why they wouldn't. But yes, I mean, most definitely we want opportunities where I'm a big believer. I mentioned a lot entertainment and video games, but I'm a big believer in VR as an educational tool. One of the finest examples I always give is the Colosseum in Rome. When I was a kid, I learned about the size of the Colosseum and the grand stature of it and so on from a textbook, and it meant nothing to me. And now you can plonk a kid in a VR headset in the middle of the Colosseum and they can see it. They can understand this is not just another building. I think VR is very powerful for education. So I was actually earlier today, I was told about a museum in the UK that has a room dedicated to VR experiences. I was like, that's amazing. That's wonderful. That's exactly what we want. Sadly, it was only for kids 12 years and up. but a lot of places have their own age restrictions and whatever else, and I can understand that. But yes, we're at the point now where why doesn't every museum have that? Why doesn't every library have a place where you can sit and just even really simple things like you can sit in the room that Charles Dickens wrote a book in, or whatever it may be. Just something to open your eyes a bit more and experience more about the world we actually live in.
Yeah, exactly. I've also heard about a case of a few museums that they were working together to have a room as well with VR headsets, where in each museum you could see something from the other one. So it was like a small network. So you can sit in one and see the things that are happening in the other one, and then you can see all the museums at the same time. So
I've not heard that. I love that idea. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So Kevin, any final regards, any final comments that you want to share with us?
No, it's quite late here in sunny old England, so I'm pretty tired. Thank you everybody who did come to this talk and watched it. I hope I wasn't rambling too much. Like I say, it's been a while since I've done a remote chat, which feels very strange to say considering the way things have been over the last few years. But yeah, my contact details are still on the screen. Feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, thank you very much, Kevin. Thanks for being here with us. For you, all viewers, thanks for bearing with us, and see you then. Bye-bye.
Thank you.